Your top stories now. As we look forward to celebrating the second decade of our hardly fought democracy, some sectors in our community and our society do not have much to celebrate. People living with albinism are ostracized and called names, and in some areas and cases even killed for muti purposes. Now, for the first time ever, the Department of Women, Children and People with Disabilities, in partnership with Albinism Society of South Africa, are hosting a conference on albinism. Now, to find out more, we joined in studio by Nomasonto Mazibuko, the Chief Executive Officer of the Albinism Society of South Africa. Nomasonto, good morning to you.
Good morning, Elvis.
Now, what does the conference, or when does it begin rather, and what can we expect?
The conference is beginning today at 2, where we're going to have a very close session where we'll be deliberating only people with albinism, all from the 9 provinces. And then we'll be finding ourselves, for the first time, we'll be locked up in a room as persons with albinism from all walks of life and from all rural and urban areas. And we've got people as far as Ngwanase, which is the border of KwaZulu-Natal and Maputo. And then later, in the same conference, we'll be having siblings of children with albinism themselves who are in the mainstream, and children with albinism who are in the special schools, and will be having their parents getting together and taking it forward. In the 20 years of democracy, we find that it's still not phased anyway. We find that when we became liberated in 1994, our Bishop Desmond Tutu was saying, we are looking at the rainbow nation. And I usually ask myself, which of the rainbow colors do people with albinism fall off, whether in the white or in the pink or whatever, Elvis, if you know what I mean.
But what is the aim of the conference? What do you want to achieve out of it?
What do we want to achieve? We want to make government aware that we have been left off. We have been discriminated. We have been marginalized. And we want to bring together with people with albinism themselves to say, guys, let's unite, and let's speak in one voice, whereby at some stage people with albinism were saying, I am disabled, I am going to ask for pity. And some of us who have made it in life will say, no, I'm black and I'm proud, and I'm Nomasonto, I'm not disabled. But because the United Nations in the human rights sector has declared albinism to say it is disability, in spite of our impairment of our eyesight, our skin, we have now been declared disabled, and we're looking to the disability fraternity and missionary to accept us. You know, if in this country, disability is a wheelchair and a cane. And when you come in as Nomasonto in the arena of disabled people, they will be saying, get me a glass of water. Do this because you are able-bodied and you don't have, and our limitations have not come up to the whole world. And we're saying, as people in South Africa, we are in the 20th year. Where do we find ourselves in?
Nomasonto, as a person living with albinism, what sort of hardships does people with albinism face in the country?
Elvis, I'm not living with albinism. I've got albinism. I have not acquired, ever since I was born, the hardships that I've gone through are minimal, yet very clearing. I belong to a family of 10 siblings. 5 of us had albinism, 5 didn't have. And then the hardship that I suffered most is that when I became a teacher, I was yelling to be a principal or deputy principal or an inspector of schools. But when I was given a chance and applied to be deputy principal in a school, I was told, you cannot be led by a person with albinism. And it was said in my language, which is very derogatory, and some of those parents, I had taught in that school for 20 years. And when now I am getting into management, the very school boards, the very, those days with the school committees took it with a pinch of salt, and it is unfortunate. And it has helped me because from that, I founded the Albinism Society.
Now, to what degree does your conference seek to change policy framework and as far as the needs of people living with albinism are concerned? For instance, like the provision of free sunscreen at clinics?
We are going to look first at the derogatory language. We want experts to look at us and tell us how you must perceive me as Nomasonto before you call me Inkawu or Ishai. And then we're saying the assistive device, the computers that we use must have systems where in the labor market we could be outside. Sunscreens to this country are still cosmetic. Medical aids are not paying for them. And then the health sector is having it minimally. To me, as we're entering summer, sunscreen must be applied every 4 hours. So if I've got a tube of 15 mils, it lasts me a day. So we're saying to the Department of Health, can we have access to sunscreen? And those of us who are employed, could we buy our sunscreen from our medical aid? And sunscreen in this country is very high because it's still cosmetic.
And just lastly, and very briefly, Nomasonto, who else do you expect who are the main speakers at the conference?
The main speakers are, we have divided the main speakers to say we people with albinism should be talking and deliberating. And we have the Department of Health, the Department of Education, the Department of Social Development, the Department of Labor, the Department of Economic Development, because the economy, the very 10 rands that you use, Elvis, to buy, it's the same 10 rand that is coming from Nomasonto. So we have tried and put up everybody. It's the first of its kind, and it's short. But we think we'll make it to say, here we are, hear our voices.
Nomasonto, thank you so much for your time and spending some time here in studio with us.
Thank you
for
Elvis.
joining us. That is